Wait your turn. You can have what's left when I'm done.
The only guy in the galaxy from Alabama.
Hey.
You're right.
Man, I was gonna bring that up.
I made Martin laugh.
That's the thing, because I'm like, right at this moment, he wants to just say the N-word so goddamn bad. He was like, ooh, if this wasn't a Disney show, he would have absolutely said that. Major spoilers for Obi-Wan Kenobi. We just had the last episode 6 of the season. I don't know. Now there's rumors that they're going to possibly do a season 2. Captain Kennedy says, well, there's interest. Perhaps we'll do a season 2. I mean, I don't know. Do we even want one?
Yes.
We'll let you know. Vanny says yes.
See, I didn't want to do this with you.
Yeah.
Speaking of Mr. Negative over here.
We'll see. No, I mean, listen, I have some. I might have some positive things to say. I got some mixed things to say, and I got some negative things to say. I'm across the spectrum with Obi-Wan Kenobi, but
You are the gray Jedi
yes,
of this discussion.
very much so, very much so. But before we go ahead and start going into, because I want to go over just everyone's overall thoughts on this episode, and then we get into more specific scenes. And then by the end, we can go ahead and just do a wrap of thoughts of the entire series.
Okay.
Give everyone a chance, but
Or season.
or season, whatever they want, whatever they think it is. But before we go ahead and get into all that, I want to give you guys a look at the trailer, and we'll come right back with our various thoughts.
Leave us alone.
When the time comes, he must be trained.
Like you trained his father.
He's
That's
like,
a low
come
blow.
on, man.
That is a low blow.
I love
Fair,
that.
but it hurts.
But it's also like, I didn't even want to train this father.
That's
My
true.
master made me do it.
That's true. That's true. And I want to talk about that. I mean, I really want to get nitty gritty details of this entire episode of the series of Obi-Wan as a character. But yeah, that's a great point you bring up, Martin. Like Obi-Wan didn't even want to train Anakin, and that's probably why what happened. But plus, I just love that. Joel Edgerton, I will say, he is one of the underrated actors in this show. I wish he was in it
Very much
more,
so.
honestly. I thought he was fantastic, especially with Ewan McGregor. But yeah, that scene is great. But before we go ahead and get into more specificities, let's kind of do overall thoughts on this last episode. Speaking for myself, I did enjoy it. I think
It happened. I'm coming to join you.
However, there were some things that I took issue with. But let me just say,
This close.
what I liked about this episode is that we finally got some conversations between characters. That's the thing I will say at the top. Like, I really like that we finally had a dynamic established between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, which was not just pure action. That to me was one of the highlights of this episode. It was what I wanted. It's what I expected from this series. What I thought was going to be the focus for the most part. I think the return of Joel Edgerton was great. I wish he was in the series more. I think every scene he had was really cool, and also just it makes me just appreciate his character and also Beru a lot more in the grand scheme of Star Wars, because they're kind of like the Jonathan and Martha Kent of the Star Wars
Kinda.
universe.
You don't think about it, because when you come into A New Hope,
They're
Uncle
90.
Owen is just, what the fuck are you doing? Bring your ass on here.
He's very much that, and Joel Edgerton kind of brought a little more softness to those edges. But what I like about this episode so much is that they really provide you with the details, like, oh wow, they show that they love this kid.
Yeah.
That they look. I mean, we'll talk about that. They look at Luke as their own son, and I thought that was great. We needed more of that. I personally wish Joel Edgerton was in the series alongside Obi-Wan, going on an adventure together to stop something.
Of all the things, that's probably my biggest disappointment with this series, because when we got to see him early, and Joel Edgerton is one of the most, and I hate using the word underrated, but he really is one of the most underrated actors, in that he is solid, if not very good in everything he's in.
And even some of the stuff that I was kind of iffy on for a lot of it, like the relationship between Obi-Wan and Leia, where I like when they're just talking to each other. I think they're great. The actress whose name escapes me at the top of my head, but the stuff that they give her in this episode, I think it works throughout the entirety. I love the
You loved her because she wasn't being precocious or
Yes,
sassy.
that's right, yeah.
That's why you loved her.
I mean,
and even when he said for an old man, she was like, "Oh, stop it! I regret I even said that."
I like it because you know what she realized that she was being a dick and she had to be nice. I was like, yes, respect your elders.
You're gonna make such a great dad.
I love that. I love that with her, and we'll get to the specific scene that I'm referencing here. But when he talks about she represents the best of her parents, I thought they nailed
That's
that.
a great scene.
And then listen, then we get to obviously we have the duel and everything, and I thought that was fine. I think it's okay.
Fine.
I think it's fine.
Dude, come on.
I think it's
that,
fine.
That duel was amazing.
I'll explain why I don't think it's amazing. I think certain aspects of it are amazing, and some things take away from that duel later on. But I felt like it could have been shot infinitely better.
I was about to say, you're gonna say cinematography right now.
Oh yeah, cinematography. I think the cinematography and the editing during a lot of the action scenes is
Had it been
incredibly
a movie,
sloppy.
I would have demanded that.
Yeah.
Being a TV show, I thought it did very
did
well.
And I hate to do this, but because it's been talked about a lot, and not by the best of people out there, but the Riva character, and it's not Moses
Riva.
Ingram's fault. Riva! Excuse me. Yeah, excuse me. I have to say it correctly. Riva. I just feel like there's so much inconsistencies with her, and what her arc ended up being just wasn't satisfying or made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And it's too bad because
Yeah.
they're obviously setting her up for a spin-off show.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's what's happening. I'm like, it just didn't feel earned. Nothing she did felt earned.
When she didn't actually die in the last episode,
Oh yeah.
then I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, they're setting her up for not only a redemption arc, but possibly a spinoff. Because with the last episode, it didn't make sense that he didn't outright kill her.
There are so many moments throughout this series where Vader's like, well, I stabbed you or I buried you in something. Anyway, bye. I definitely killed you. And he just walks away.
Yeah, because
Always.
it's not like he doesn't have a history of being almost killed and then coming back strong.
And he's like, you should know. You should know. Oh, Lord. But and then there are some fan service things where it's like, you could have handled that in such a better way. And you barely just threw it in there just for the sake of throwing it in there.
I will say this about that.
Yeah.
Without discounting anything you're saying or will say about the fan service. If you come into a Star Wars property and you complain about fan service, you shouldn't even be there in the first place.
That's fair.
Yeah,
That's fair.
that's very fair.
That's fair.
But you know what you're getting into.
But yeah, overall, I think this episode was quite enjoyable. It was up there with episode 1 for me. I think the first episode and the last episode are the best, and everything else kind of feels superfluous. However,
You didn't like the third episode?
I think it was fine. I like the
Yeah,
first.
I thought the third was the best, and this is the close second.
I think the first 2/3 of that episode were very good.
That's right. You hated the. Okay, I remember
But
now.
the duel and
You
everything,
hated
and
the
then
duel.
him letting him go away again. Vader's just like, all right, there he goes. All right, bye, Ben. I'll see you
I know,
later.
I know.
That's what bothered me.
I could. Oh wait, we got 3 more episodes. All right, I'll catch him later.
All right,
And he
I'll
still has
get
to
you.
live for the next movie.
Yeah.
That's also true. So, yeah. But anyway, those are my overall thoughts on this episode, and then we're getting more details in a bit. But, Martin, your overall thoughts on episode 6?
I felt like this episode is what this entire series was leading to. From the beginning, everything has served getting to this point, for good and bad. So some of it really well, and some of it was like, could have got to this either sooner or done so much more development before we got here.
I agree.
You're right about Riva. There's certain aspects of her story and her character that I like, especially in the beginning, the mystery of her.
Sure.
But it's one of those things where the more the mystery was revealed, the less interesting it was, and the more it was like, huh? Or just more so like, this could have been handled differently. Because of the episodes that were clunkers, it made me so hyper critical or hyper focused on less than or bad writing that I spent too much of this trying to like, is that bad? Is this good? Is that bad?
Second guessing, yeah.
Yeah. And some of it jumped out as like, yeah, that's a little cringe. But I think this episode had a lot going for it that did work or was good, or like, okay, these are the payoffs. They do work. I didn't think you could do it by this last episode. It helps that it was 51 minutes rather than 30 minutes.
Right. It was the
Because it was
longest
like in
one.
30 minutes, there's no way you can do it. But being 51 minutes, it gave it time to get where it was. It's just a feeling like with 6 episodes, there's so much that could have been accomplished, but it only tried to accomplish a small amount.
Yeah.
It did it, but it could have done more.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end, with the last scene, it was like, oh, okay, well, you've really set this up for a second season.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, it's hard to judge this as the period on the end of the sentence.
Sure. Okay. No, that's very fair. And Vanny, your thoughts, your overall thoughts on this specific episode?
Yeah, a lot of it really mirrors what Martin just said. Like, I really, really enjoyed not only this episode, but overall the show itself. Like, I will admit it's very problematic, and there's areas, to your point, where, yeah, I would have liked to seen it done differently, or maybe a better performance, or a stronger bit of dialogue here or there. But overall, like, I think this was really, like, the culmination of, I think, the overall message of the show, which was, how do you deal with something so unbelievably tragic? Like Riva's revelation when she was like the youngling, Obi-Wan's whole fight with Obi-Wan, and how do you recover from that too, and just how do you deal with that, like, either being a recluse and just kind of hiding in a cave and cutting up fish, or do you just do like a lifelong plot for revenge, and then what does that get you at the end for it too? So I do see the point of Riva, like, now that the season's over.
But a big thing about this series, which I did like, is that he reaches closure.
Yes. Yeah, he does.
I do think that so much of this started with him just being like, I'm just scared and I don't want to be hunted, where it should have been more of the, like, I have such tremendous guilt that I can't.
Yeah.
And I feel like they weren't selling that.
Yes.
They kind of did try to do both, I think is the problem, is that he needs to stay hidden because of Order 66, but he also is still having like those nightmares that you see in Episode 1. The problem, though, is that it's more just like flashes of that, where I think that's the much more interesting story.
Yes.
Is the guilt.
100%.
Yeah.
Like, I would have liked to have seen more nightmares throughout the entire season, but anytime, like Anakin's mentioned, you do see like that shock and terror in him a little bit too. So
Well, with that first duel in Episode 3,
Yeah.
it just seemed like he was just rusty
Yeah.
and scared.
Yeah.
But it would have made more sense if he was just I'm just so broken up and I just can't.
Yeah.
I can't fight you again.
Yeah.
I'm having
Yeah.
trouble living with this.
Right.
To where when we get to the end of this episode, where he's like, okay, so the guy I knew is
Gone.
dead, and I don't have to feel bad about this anymore.
yeah,
That's-
it's more pity.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought that up, because that is one of the first big scenes that I wanted to analyze, because, again, it's what I figured would be the entire crux of the show. It's the thing that we all seemingly like the most. And kind of give you an idea of why I think this works so well is because, well, you actually have stakes, and you have two actors who, in my opinion, are acting their asses off. Let's go ahead and take a look at this scene. We'll come back with our general thoughts on it.
So,
What happened to you?
It's just a flesh wound.
I thought you came back as a badass, but oh my god.
Yeah, you were just a crusty old man inside that suit.
He
yeah.
aged a lot in 10 years too.
No, he did. Well, you know,
that
when you-
suit messed him up.
When you get covered in lava, that'll do it.
Yeah,
That's what
well,
will
yeah, like
happen.
5th-degree burns.
Yeah, I take a day off when I stub my toe.
Anakin. Anakin's gone. I'm sorry, Anakin.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's just looking. It's like, yeah, I bet you are goddamn sorry. Oh, the reason why the lip sync's off is because the clips.
Oh,
The
okay.
clips are all messed up.
Sorry.
No, you're good. But that is the scene that I've been waiting for throughout this entire show. You know, I've talked about on here why aren't Obi-Wan and Vader talking to each other? There's been no conversation. Maybe with a few, they throw a few lines at each other in Episode 3. Aside from that, no conversation. And here they finally give it to us. And it's frustrating because I think it's very good.
It's powerful.
And I think both Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor are doing a great job. And it does the thing that we were all talking about right now, is that it's Vader telling Obi-Wan, don't feel guilty. I am the one that killed Anakin Skywalker, all right? When I aligned myself with Palpatine. When all of this, you can read into this. I aligned myself with Palpatine. I killed all those children. You know, I betrayed the Republic. It was me, not you.
Yeah.
And then finally, Obi-Wan can say, oh, God, yeah. I can forgive myself now because my friend is gone. Whoever Anakin was, he's been gone
He
for a
was gone
decade.
before I killed him.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. I mean, before I chopped all his limbs off and burned his dick off, all of that. And I'm like, yes, this is what we need more of. And this is great. I think this is great, but it feels a little too late. to a degree.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I didn't feel that. I was happy for it.
Sure.
It was well done.
It was.
Especially between those actors, and that little touch of sympathizing Hayden Christensen's voice with
That's
James Earl
brilliant.
Jones.
That's one of
Yeah.
the smartest things they've ever done in that show.
I will say yes. The sound design in this particular episode is very good. Let's actually hear some of that dialogue and get what Martin's talking about.
Didn't kill Anakin. I did.
That smile right there.
Yeah, he smiles.
I will destroy you.
Do you notice the color changes too?
Yeah, and how they use
Yeah.
color exactly. When he's
Yeah.
blue, he's talking about Anakin, and when he's like, "I killed him," and it becomes red.
Full
as you
red.
said.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, no, that is handled very well. And the thing is, I'm greedy, and I want more. I'm a glutton. I want more of this, and
get
it's
that.
great. It's great, and I'm glad we finally got to it. But it was like, damn, we could have gotten so many episodes where they have conversations like this. It could have been played out over time.
Wasn't it supposed to be a movie too?
It was supposed to be
initially?
this more than anything. I will say this should have been a movie now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should have been. But glass half empty, glass half full.
Yeah.
I mean, you've gone decades without this scene,
Mm-hmm.
without any knowledge or even hope that it would ever happen.
True.
Here it is. It
Yeah.
might not be. It might not be enough, but it's more than what you had.
Yeah, no, it is, because it kind of harkens back to that scene, Return of the Jedi, where Luke is trying to do the same thing, where he's saying, "There's good in you," and Vader's like, "Obi-Wan once thought as you did," but we never see that really until now.
Well, see, yeah. I mean, I think one of the better things that this series does is stitch some of that together. Like places where you go, like, man, I'm with this, but how did you get from here to here? And it's going, these are the bridges. This
Yeah.
is what happened.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other filler and bullshit you got to deal with, but the things that do work are things that, like, okay, this takes me from here to there.
Yeah.
And I get that.
Yeah. So it does that well, I think. And again, the scene in itself, I think, is very good. Moving over to some more of the highlights, which I really did like, I talked about Owen and Beru and how I felt like this show gave them more to do. I mean, even though, again, Beru has very little screen time overall in the entirety of the Star Wars saga, I just like that we have more context with them.
Oh,
to
yeah.
realize that they are not only guardians of Luke, not only his caretakers, his wards, they're his parents.
Yeah.
And like this scene over here, I thought really emphasized that. I really enjoyed it.
You really love the boy. Like he's your own.
He is my own.
See, like that line reminds me of it's a weird comparison.
You know what? It's an odd thing because her line, "You really love that boy like it's your own." That's not good writing. That's bad writing.
No,
that's not
I
anything
know.
you would say. But his response,
Exactly.
that's
It's a setup
good.
line.
That's good writing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right about that. I mean, again, but what they do with Moses Ingram, it's a goddamn shame. You know what she's forced to say. But in this scene, and I don't have the other clip, but with there's another scene like this, but where both Owen and Beru are just expressing their love for Luke, and it reminds me of it's from a movie I hate, Martin, that I think we both dislike, Man of Steel, where you have the Kevin Costner. He's talking to a young Clark Kent, and Clark says to him, after he reveals like Clark's origins and things, and Clark says, "Can I just be your son?" And like Jonathan, Kevin Costner looks at him and goes, "You are my son." And I love them. They embrace and they hug. It's like, there you go. That's Superman right there.
Yeah.
And so this scene just reminds me so much of that, and a couple of other ones that feature Owen. And again, it just further just makes me want to have had seen more of Joel Edgerton in this show.
I'm with you because scenes like that are what we saw just in the previous scene with Vader and Obi-Wan. Like this scene, what happens with Owen and Beru here?
Yeah.
It rewrites how you think about A New Hope
Yes, it does.
Very much.
without discounting any of it.
True. You both brought up Leia, and I do like how they wrapped up her storyline in this season or series. And that last conversation, I thought was quite beautiful.
You are wise, discerning. These are qualities that came from your mother. But you're also passionate, forthright. And these are gifts from your father.
Yeah, keep speaking to me. Yeah, keep. I like this. I like hearing this. But no, right there, I thought that was great writing.
Yeah.
You know, that even you look back at the prequels and the Anakin and Padme relationship is just so terrible.
Oh, yeah.
It's just weird and kind of problematic in certain ways.
Yeah, but you can't tell all that.
I know exactly. But that's what I'm saying. Like, despite that, they're like, okay, let's focus on the things that let's rework it. And how they did it here with a young Leia and telling her about you have the best attributes of your parents, which she never knew. I thought that was a beautiful moment and a great little end to her character in this show. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
And it's also, I think, I know people were starting to warm up a lot more to the prequels over the last, like, I'd say about a year or so. But also, I think people need to remember, it also took the Clone Wars series, Rebels, now this show, Rogue One, for people to realize, like, oh yeah, there are some aspects of the prequels that do work.
Like what?
Like, so with that, like,
All right, Manny, here you go.
I always deal with this. John Williams soundtracks, start to finish, all three, perfect.
Martin, you set him up. He's gonna go down
I got
the
this.
line.
I used to do this on my Twitch channel all the time, where I rip into these things. But it did have a beginning, middle, and end, and it did end where it needed to. So I did tell a complete story, and there was a complete vision by the end of the prequels too. Execution, lots to be desired.
I want to talk about the thing that I think maybe I'm in the minority on, but it's with the duel, which was being advertised. This is the rematch of the century. You've been waiting for this for so long, and that first fight you saw, that wasn't the real fight.
No.
That's the warm up.
No,
But-
this is the Thriller in Manila.
Yeah, but I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. You know I don't know music, Martin.
Oh my!
It's not music. It's
wow.
it's the fight between Muhammad Ali and George Foreman.
Oh.
The when they made documentaries about it.
Oh, what? Okay.
It's the fight of the century.
Yeah. Of course, I knew that. Anyway.
Every time we hang out, you're just reminding me how much older I am of you.
At that one point, Vader almost looked like he hit the camera. So here's my thing. I think the choreography in this is fantastic. The thing is, I just want to, I don't know, grab Deborah Chow's hand or her cinematographer hands or at her hand and goes, stop doing that. Stop moving the camera around so much because I can't tell what's going on at times. Like, it's almost like
I never had that problem.
See, I did. Yeah, I was. There's some sequences in this battle that I do like when it's just steady. That's the one thing I'm going to say. You could say a lot about George Lucas on the prequel films and New Hope or whatever. But you look at him, look at Irving Kershner, look at Richard Marquand in Return of the Jedi, look at J.J. Abrams, hell, look at Rian Johnson. They keep that camera steady on these fight scenes, and for whatever reason, there's consistency.
I thought there's a different way to do it to make it feel like you were in or part of the battle. And I know with shaky cam, there's a tendency to make you feel like that's a problem I have with a lot of the Bourne Identity films.
Sure.
They have these tight fight scenes where the camera's moving all over, quick cuts, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I just got to wait until somebody's down.
Yeah.
I didn't have that problem with this one.
We just got to agree to disagree.
And you guys fell for it.
No, that's not what I meant.
I did buy a timeshare.
That is just one that we definitely disagree on. But however, despite that, I do think that there are a lot of parts of this duel that do work for me, and I like it when Star Wars showcases kind of like just new ways to use the Force, but ones that still feel grounded enough, or not like they're not doing 50 flippy jumps in the air or anything like that.
I hate when they do flippy jumps. But throughout so many of these lightsaber battles, where Darth Vader will use the telekinesis, I was like, why aren't they doing that all the time?
Yeah.
And this is that one where I was like, wow, they went on full-on earthbending here.
Yeah. And that's the scene I want to show, because that
so
to me was one of the highlights of that duel. Fuck! Ow! Jesus!
Time out!
I just love all those rocks pelting him.
Yep.
That to me was great. Because when the camera was steady, I could tell what was happening, But it was showing something familiar, but something really new at the same time. It was a great blending of prequel and original trilogy sensibilities with the Force.
Yes.
And I love that. And plus, Vader's just like, oh my God, he just didn't expect that.
Yeah, because up to this point, he's been the cock of the walk.
Yep.
He walks in, he's doing new tricks just to showboat.
Yeah.
And suddenly he's come across somebody who's actually a little bit better than him.
Yeah.
he's not prepared for it.
He thought he was better, and he just he was too. He was arrogant. Arrogance was always one of Anakin's issues, and it's what fails.
Yeah, yeah. When they had the flashback where it was just like he's just like going at it, and he's like, "Man, you got to stop doing that."
Yeah, I thought this was really cool, but now I kind of got to get into the stuff that I felt like it just wasn't working. It didn't just let me confused.
Okay.
Really confused, and it's with the character of Riva, who opens the episode. Riva.
Wait your turn. You can have what's left when I'm done.
The only guy in the galaxy from Alabama.
You're right.
Man, I was gonna bring that up.
I made Martin laugh.
That's the thing, because I'm like, right at this moment, he wants to just say the N-word so goddamn bad. He was like, ooh, if this wasn't a Disney show, he would have absolutely said that. So listen, I think it's kind of like okay, she's back, all right. He got his comeuppance, cool.
Yeah.
How the did she get there?
How did she after being stabbed?
Yeah.
I was like, stabbed. I mean, at this point, Darth Maul, he came back and everything.
Thank
I know.
you. I was like, I'm watching Solo, and Darth Maul shows up, a dude who I saw get cut in half, and there's no explanation. WTF,
I know.
man.
Yeah.
I know.
Star Wars anatomy is different from everybody else's. There's
And-
nothing right there. There's
clearly.
nothing there.
Yeah, there's
Clearly.
no one has a stomach. Listen,
All appendix.
Listen, yes, you're right about that. And at this point, apparently Qui-Gon Jinn was a bitch when he got stabbed in the stomach, because
And didn't come back.
everyone, the Grand Inquisitor, he's back, Reva's back, Darth Maul, he's been back for a while.
Yeah.
That's not my issue. I'm like, all right, whatever. Stab wounds don't matter in Star Wars now. The thing that I'm confused by is like, okay, how does travel work now? Because it's like we saw her laying in the ditch, on the planet. And then suddenly she's on Tatooine, but then we cut, and like Vader's still chasing the ship with Obi-Wan. I'm
Right.
like, wait a minute, it reminded me of Game of Thrones, where
Yeah,
people are
everyone's
just
fast.
teleporting all over the
Yeah,
place. So I'm
very
like,
fast.
Yeah.
and because it took away from this kind of fun little cool scene, like, oh, she's back and she's doing her thing or whatever. And I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't make any goddamn sense, and it's the start of.
I mean, I suppose the idea is that while Vader's off chasing Obi-Wan that way,
Yeah.
nobody's watching her, so she was
Clearly.
able to go back to Tatooine
With light speed.
unmolested.
with light speed,
Yeah.
with a ship we don't see. I
Yeah.
mean, there's.
That's where it would have been.
Like she would get up and be like to stormtroopers, like, "Hey, you guys help me get a ship," and they'd be like, "No,
No,
Yeah.
they try to
you're
shoot her.
still alive, huh?"
Like, but you.
They would try. Well, they would try
Except
to
they
shoot
would
her.
miss.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
They would miss. They would miss.
Yeah.
So it's you know what? It's something that can be fixed easily. Just show her
One scene.
getting off a ship or having a ship. It's like it's a one scene thing. But all right, whatever.
Yeah.
That's not my big issue with this. One of my biggest issues is just her arc in general, because I'm very, very confused by it. Her whole thing, like, okay, it's revealed, I guess, in the fifth episode, the penultimate episode, that she is trying to get revenge against Darth Vader
Yeah.
because he killed all of her Jedi friends.
Yeah, all the young
First of all, still don't know how she knows who he is. They don't know Anakin's Darth Vader. There's never like a line where it's like Lord Vader. It's like, that's a huge plot hole right there. Okay,
Yeah.
that's plot hole number one. And the other part of it is, she has been, as an Inquisitor for at least 10 years, however long that she's been killing and hunting various Jedi.
Yes.
But you have this one scene where, well, she just can't do it. And that's the thing that bothers me. I want to show
You
this
don't
scene.
know
We'll
what
come
a
back.
pet peeve that is for me.
There's little Luke. Oh, but she sees herself. Hi. So this is why this bothers me, and I want to have you come in with your opinion, Martin, you, Vanny. One, I just think it's so funny that with her, apparently, there's a little white boy in all of us, Martin. She just saw a little white boy in her, and Vanny, here's a little white boy in you, and Martin, there's a little white boy in you too. Apparently. But it's like, oh, now I suddenly feel guilty for, everything, and I can't kill Luke. One, because it will obviously establish a continuity error, but at the same time, it's like, then what was the point of doing all of this? It just felt pointless.
Yeah, I also don't like how they could have done the one transition of like, oh, I see myself,
Right.
instead of just beating it into the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a defense for this.
Yeah.
No.
It's not very well done. It's cliche in a way that's bad. It's the kind of thing where like I don't believe you're doing this, not just because I don't believe it, just because I would think you'd know better. You could do better than this.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, her whole arc doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Only if you go, well, she's okay with killing adult Jedi, but not child Jedi.
Maybe.
I think it's like the
I
greater good
guess.
sort of mentality. Like for her, the ends justify the means of finally killing Vader, so she'll do anything it takes to get to that point.
Yeah.
And I think by this point now, she's had her conversations with Obi-Wan, trying to say like, hey, this is like we can do this together, or like there's a better way of doing it. Again, this is the part of the show where like it gets mishandled, but I think the idea is supposed to be that now that she kind of realizes that she cannot fight Vader, she's going to lose. So now she's got nothing left. So what is she going to go for? Well, I still want to hurt him, but it's going to be killing a child. And by that point, after all the trauma she's gone through now she realizes like, oh my God, I'm going to turn into him at this point, and I'm not going to kill him. I'm going to become another Vader, and what's my point then? So that's best I got.
Yeah, it could work because if I'm not mistaken, it didn't get revealed that Luke was Vader's son.
No.
It's
Like if she knew that he was her, that Luke was his son.
Oh, she knows that. She knows that.
She knows that?
She knows.
Yeah.
She's like one of only a few people that know that.
Okay.
Based on the previous episode when Kumail Nanjiani dropped the thing.
Okay, because it seemed like Vader didn't even know until
He doesn't know at this
until
point.
the second movie.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
right. He doesn't know until
He knows in the comics.
Well, yeah. He doesn't know until after the events of A New Hope, when the galaxy learns who blew up the Death Star. Luke Skywalker. And Vader's like, Skywalker,
Yeah.
and that's when he finds out.
Right. So at this point, yeah, I was like, how would she know that that's his son? Because
Yeah.
if she knew that's his son, where she was like, well, I can't kill him. I'm going to kill his son.
Yeah.
That's a definitive motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then they go, I can't do it. That
Right.
I understand. But it's bad writing I see everywhere where
Sure.
characters are written, their behavior is excused by them being crazy or traumatized or just acting like infants.
Yes.
And it doesn't work when you really think about it.
And
Yeah.
Star Wars has always been kind of weird of consequences. You know, Vader spent 25 years killing billions of people.
Yep.
Children.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. But then
A whole planet.
But then he dropped an old man down a shaft, and he became a Force Ghost. You're good.
Yeah.
You're good.
I'm sorry.
So there's inconsistencies, but again,
Yeah.
it comes down to just this is just not well written. It's badly written, and it's frustrating.
It is.
It should have been its own thing. If they wanted to have like
Yeah.
an Inquisitor story like on its own,
Which they
like its own
could.
TV show, which I think could have worked really well. Like the casting for the Inquisitors overall, I thought worked very well. It's just that could have been its own thing, and like they could have made Riva like spin off from that one instead.
One last thing I wanted to kind of cover, and it's very short. It's the thing where it's like, okay, you had an opportunity to do something really interesting with a returning character, and it's just a glorified cameo.
Master Qui-Gon.
Well, took you long enough.
Man, I've been dealing with so much shit for like 30 years, and he comes in with that, oh, it took you long enough. So it's like, that's it. That's it. He's like, took you long enough, and yeah, we got a ways to go down that canyon thing. All right,
Yep.
see ya. The thing is, first of all, I always want to say, one of the best things, we talked about this when we did our bad movie roast of Phantom Menace a few months ago. Liam Neeson is one of the best things about that
Yes.
movie. He does a
Yes.
very
Yes.
good job.
Yes.
Despite the material,
Yes.
he elevates it,
Yes.
right? And he's given some crazy shit to say, midichlorians and everything, dealing with stereotypes constantly. But he's really good. And this is the first time we're seeing him back in live action since 1999.
Yep.
It's been a while. It's been over 20 years. And this is it? This is all you're going to do with him? He's just, hi, I'm here.
Bro, once again, glass half full, glass half empty. He did not have to show up for this.
At all.
Was
He could've
not expecting
voiceovered
it.
it.
This could have, Obi-Wan could have just gone off into the sunset
Yeah.
or the sandset, as the
Sunset.
case may be. And him
Sand.
showing up, it's a nice little Easter egg.
Yeah.
It's Star
Yeah.
Wars fan service. I wasn't overjoyed about it, but at the same time, I was like, well, it is kind of nice.
It's nice. It's expected at that point because it also completes the arc from the first episode where he's trying but failing at it because he's cut himself off from the Force, and then he talks to Qui-Gon in the last episode too, so he finally gets his reward at the end.
And with everything Obi-Wan goes through, I can see, like, as his master, you're like, I could step in, but it's going to be more if he figures it out himself. Just let him get through this part.
I get.
I know you don't want to hear that.
Yeah,
that's an Easter egg.
It's because in the first episode, and I get it, because Obi-Wan is cut off from the Force, as you say, and he's constantly calling out to Qui-Gon. I just want people to talk to each other.
Yeah.
I just want a
know.
conversation.
Hey man, well, you know what? This ends in such a way.
Season 2.
With season 2.
Yeah.
I wasn't even thinking season 2. I wasn't even thinking season 2 until they got to this scene.
Okay.
And then I was like, huh. Season 2?
Yeah.
It could easily be a thing.
If they do a season 2, then I would want, because Yoda says famously at the end of Revenge of the Sith is like Qui-Gon Jinn is a Force ghost, whatever. He's called out to me and he wants to continue your training, and your exile. I'm like, all right, let's see that. And in the show we don't see that, but here it's like, okay, maybe now it's going to happen,
right.
And in season 2 potentially, and so that would be cool because he's because we often forget about him. Liam Neeson is one of the best things about the Phantom Menace and about the prequels in general. He's kind of like this forgotten character, so I think that'd be kind of neat.
Yeah, it was nice to go like, oh yeah, and it's also super nice to not see Liam Neeson as the old guy in a suit with a gun running.
Yeah, that's true.
And shooting people.
He just has to stand there and be a ghost, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's pretty much all of the individual scenes I wanted to cover. But we're going to kind of do our wrap up right here. I know we talked about a lot, but I mean, Martin, your overall thoughts on this show in its full context?
Look, I'm happy with this.
Sure.
I like where this ended up, and I might not like the ride, but I like where our wagon stopped. And despite where I thought I would be, I am at I would like to see a second season of
Okay,
this.
all right. What would you give?
I mean,
it?
I would rate it a matinee.
Yeah, I think same thing. I would give it a high matinee as a result of that.
High matinee.
I was entertained from start to finish for it. The last fight scene to me absolutely redeems the entire show. But I acknowledge the problems that are within it.
I enjoyed parts of this series, but in the grand scheme of things, I was left wanting. I was left disappointed.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know. I guess my expectations were too high, despite being disappointed by Star Wars on a number for years.
On a regular basis.
I know. I'm like a beaten housewife at this point. It's horrible, but it's. I just because this is such an important thing in the history of Star Wars and the relationship between Obi-Wan and Vader and how I thought it was so mishandled in the prequels. You have another chance to get this right.
Yeah.
You can finally give it the context it always deserved, that all these ancillary shows tried to do and then succeeded, but like, hey, let's bring back the original actors of Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor who were hurt by the original material. Let's put them in something good. And there are some great stuff in episode 1 and in episode 6, but it's filled with so much filler and so many just I feel like unnecessary characters and subplots where it takes away from their story. Like this isn't really about them. In the first episode it is, and the last episode is, but there's those 4 episodes where it's not. And that's the thing that really frustrates me because this material is more deserving of that, and so yeah, I mean, if they do a season 2, I'll check it out. We're all gonna check it out. We're gonna review it, of course, but I can't say I'm excited. So for myself, I'd probably give this like a high rental. It was not horrible, but it has some faults. It has some faults.